Hello, it's the Anfield Wrap. It's not Neil Atkinson, it's Rob Gutmann. Neil Atkinson is off, we think, with a hangover somewhere in the Dublin area. I won't go into the detail. I've got Neil Jones from Goal with me. I've got Chloe Bloxam and I've got Kev Walsh. Before we get stuck in, I've got a plug for our forthcoming Anfield Wrap tour of Ireland in February. 3 dates, Belfast, Dublin and Cork. Tickets are available at theanfieldwrap.com/tour live now. We're also going to be bringing our live show to North America for a 6-date tour in March, it says here. Toronto, Boston, New York City, Austin, Atlanta, Delaware. More info on that soon. I want to do that one. We'll talk about that later. Okay. Now, let me go back to my agenda. I'm swapping around my applications on my phone. I'm taking you behind the curtain here. Shrewsbury, what a game, Neil. What a game, what a day. Actually, it was a strange feeling not to win a game again. It was a bit like old times when Liverpool, but the halcyon days when Liverpool was shite.
Yeah, it was. It was nice to just have a reminder of the days when Dejan Lovren was to blame for everything.
Yes,
yeah,
rolling back the years.
Every conceded goal was a major blemish, but yeah, it was. It was a bad game, wasn't it, from Liverpool? Yeah. They played really poorly, I thought, and I don't think they could have argued if they'd have lost the game. Actually, you look at the balance of chances. You look at the fact that the second goal was an absolute shambles from Shrewsbury that they didn't do anything really to earn, and I thought it was quite telling that you saw Mo Salah, who I actually joked to James Pearce before the game. I said, "There's no way Salah and Firmino have got the boots." I said, "They're here to sign some autographs and to sort of give the presentation that that this is a serious team that's come down." But lo and behold, 15 minutes from the end, they're getting stripped and ready, and I think that said it all about how the day went for Liverpool.
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk about the selection, including the bench, Chloe. I thought it was interesting that they were picked, and my first feeling was. I was speaking to Steve Graves, who was with me and sitting next to me watching it in the boozer, and we came to the conclusion, I don't know if we were right or wrong, that Klopp half had an eye on keeping them in rhythm, and I think he always planned to give them 10 minutes. Either we were running away with the game and he'd got Mo on to score a couple. Anyway, genuinely, what was your thoughts on the selection, the 11 and the subs?
From the start, 11, I didn't mind it. We've put out similar teams with a couple of senior players here and there against Everton and Arsenal. And to be fair, it was our senior players who actually let us down a bit more than the youngsters. I thought the youngsters could be proud of what they produced against Shrewsbury on Sunday, but I think when looking at the game, some senior players were a bit rocky in and out of possession. You could tell some of them had been lacking first team games, obviously because of injuries and just coming back. But you needed to get the likes of Dejan Lovren and Matip back in and give them actually a couple of minutes because, in big games, say Virgil goes off injured, which, would be a nightmare and my worst nightmare. You can't have Dejan or Matip coming off the bench with no game time behind them. They're going to be even rusty than they were against Shrewsbury and in the Premier League and Champions League games and more significant games through our run at this moment in time. You can't have someone who's not in form or not actually got a bit of rhythm to them. So on that front, I wasn't surprised with the team selection. I was quite happy with it, to be honest. And I think from a point of where our senior players maybe let us down, and you could tell that we were lacking first team players experience. In a sense, yeah. The composure was just not there. We're in a game, we control everything. It was a bit like, oh, I see a player running at me, let's hoof it. And that's not us. And for Matip and Fabinho, because Fabinho, who is one of my favourites, he had some rocky moments in that game. For them too, I can understand. Lovren, I can understand, but then again, he can be a brilliant player on his day, and still, you wouldn't be surprised if he made a 90th minute howler, yeah. But it's a bit fun, innit? In a sense, you've got Zegsy messing up at the back. When the goal went in, I just kind of sat there and thought to myself, wow, it's a bit of fun in a sense because we're not used to this. We're used to Virgil absolutely commanding everything with a bit of Joe Gomez, and Lovren just really misses a ball that he could clear, and they go on and get back into the game. And I think overall the youngsters played well and the senior players maybe lacked, but at the same time, when they're coming back from injuries, being so long out, you can't really blame them for not having any rhythm. And this was the game to put them players in.
Do you think there's a kind of inevitability about games like this, Kev? I don't care how good or bad Liverpool are. You're on a bit of a hiding to nothing in this sort of fixture. And I thought it was a bit, I don't know what the expression is, after the Lord Mayor show. Even though you got the youngsters with something to prove, you got the old pros coming back with something to prove and to get things in their legs, you're never going to get the motivation and intensity, and you are going to get the anxiety that it's almost like a no-win scenario, and I think that plays into minds.
Yeah, but I think also what we maybe got a little bit carried away with the Everton win. The Everton win was fantastic, wasn't it? But
yeah,
by the same token, that was... Well, it now looks like a bit of a one-off. I don't think it was a one-off as in the players are never going to make it or anything like that. I think it's just, you're looking at a game like that and the players probably thought, oh my God, this is the moment. And then the crowd go from thinking, we're not going to win yet, to let's get behind.
But there is the Arsenal game as well. There's evidence in that.
Yeah, but did we play that well in the Arsenal game? I'm not 100% sure we did. I thought some of the players we had in that Arsenal game, Nico Williams got rave reviews. I didn't think he played that well, but he's gone on to improve. And again, he was quite good yesterday, to be fair to him, Nico Williams. But the Shrewsbury game, as you say, the hiding to nothing thing, we're talking about getting minutes in legs of the likes of Lovren and Mata. But a bit of Lovren's going to be going, why am I getting put in with these? Do you know what I mean? Because we know what his mindset is. His mindset is, well, I'm a first team player and I should be in the first team, regardless of the things you can see. Do you know what I mean? Because it's clearly not. But sometimes you want them to be like, okay, well, I'll take the ball by the horns and I'll boss this game. But a bit of them might have been thinking, no, but I can't be asked. Shrewsbury on Sunday nights, what am I doing here? I want to be playing in the Champions League and we've got Atletico Madrid next week. So as much as you want to think that the first teamers will go out and act professionally, you've got to remember that they're just fellas at the end of the day. They're professional sportsmen, but by the same token, you've got all the same problems that normal people have got with the daily work lives. To them, that was work yesterday. And going to work against Shrewsbury on a Sunday night is not as exciting as going to work at Anfield on a Saturday against Everton.
No. I mean, Chloe touched on the youngsters, Neil. I thought they were a mixed bag, actually. I thought, and I agree with Kev that Nico played well. I mean, Jesus Christ, I'm not damning a 16-year-old boy, but I thought Harvey Elliott came off the pitch looking disappointed with his performance. And even though Curtis scores a nice goal, I think he will also have been a bit frustrated.
Yeah, maybe not necessarily Curtis. I thought he was probably best player, Liverpool's best player, I thought, in the game.
I suppose the bar was low, so
yeah. I mean, it was a low bar. I thought I agree with Kev, actually. I mean, I thought this is a tougher game than Everton. And I know that's not me gleefully sticking the boot into Everton,
which would always happen, which
would be, I'm sure, would be welcomed around the table. But it was because Everton takes care of itself, doesn't it? You've got adrenaline, you've got the home backing, and you've got a team that are going to play in a way that them youngsters are going to know how to deal with. So then, you know, that Everton, all Premier League teams are pretty, you know, with the exception of maybe Burnley and, you know, the odd Newcastle potentially. All Premier League teams play the same way, and all academy teams play the same way. So you know the patterns, you know what they're sort of going to do. Obviously, the pace and the experience is going to be a bit different, and the strength, the physical strength. But you can generally plan for it as a young player. Whereas a pitch like that, fans who, you know, they were pretty good. The Shrewsbury fans who made a good noise. They were, you know, I know they enjoyed being on the pitch at the end, despite the hilarious attempts of the loudspeaker to tell him to get off the pitch when there's like 14,000 of them. You think, probably leave it, mate. You know, give him a couple of minutes. He was still drumming while Klopp was doing his post-match interviews. The drum was still going in the main stand. So, you know, that's a different experience for these players, and we've seen these under-23s. I've been to watch them this season in the Football League Trophy. Went to watch them at Oldham, went to watch them at Accrington. And a lot of those players, Laruzzi and, you know, Nico Williams, they played in those games, and they found it tough because these are gnarled, grizzled pros who are, you know, it's their big day, isn't it? You know, and I think I don't necessarily think that the youngsters were the reason Liverpool didn't perform, but I always thought it was going to be a bigger challenge for them than it was, you know, taking on Everton at home. Let's say that way.
Well, let's talk about the challenge to come then, Chloe. I mean, Klopp came out straight after the game, and as though, I don't know whether he made the decision on the hoof during that second half, thinking if this goes to a fucking replay, I am definitely not putting out any first team players.
I can confirm he definitely didn't. That was always going to be the plan.
That was always going to be
the plan.
All right, can I stay with Neil on this? I'll come back to you for a reaction in a minute, Chloe. Well, what is that? Did you get the sense talking to him afterwards then that was the plan? That if it went to a replay, just no. But why? His reason. Sorry, in as
Yeah.
much as his reason didn't overly convince, it sounded like it was and I don't want to disrespect the manager, but a reason he'd contrived for the press, for the public.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's a stand, isn't it? It's almost strike action, isn't it? From
yes,
in that regard, not quite as dramatic as that.
Working to rule.
It's right. Nothing will change unless we do something drastic, and they're going to do that. Clearly, I mean, there's different briefings going on, obviously, but Liverpool's reasoning was, we got a letter from the Premier League which said you don't schedule any games for the 2-week break that we're going to give you, which is what the Premier League clubs have been asking for, a winter break. They've got the sort of first wave of that with 2 weeks. It's not as big as Germany or other countries that have it, but it's a start.
Yeah.
And so then they get another letter from the Premier League, from the FA, saying, congratulations on your break, but just to let you know that if you manage to cock up your 4th round tie, as Liverpool did, let's not forget that. Let's not forget the only reason they're in the position is because they couldn't hold on to a 2-0 lead away at a League One team. Then your break's going to be not 14 days; it's going to be 10. And so Liverpool knew that. They've obviously had the issue with the Carabao Cup where they've had to make a stand in that regard, and they're thinking, well, we can't keep, or we're not prepared to keep doing that and keep flogging our players to whatever, or keep dancing to the tune of different organisations asking for different needs at different times of the year. So we're going to stick up and for ourselves and do this that way. And I don't actually, I agree broadly with the point that Klopp makes about the fixtures, but I don't agree with this decision at all. I think it's he'll argue it's necessary because otherwise what's going to change. But I think in the cold light today, I think Liverpool will regret it if they go through with it, which I do expect that they will.
Yeah, Chloe, it does feel like cutting off nose to spite face, because it would, if it's not about making a point, if it's about a practical consideration, he could just do what he did yesterday, rest 11 first teamers and put out a perfectly serviceable team, and actually beyond that, give needed minutes to a Shaqiri or a Milner who could be fit by then, a Kaito who I suppose didn't get minutes yesterday. I as it was going through the game, I was saying to people sitting with me, I was going, I don't mind this replay. This is, if we go out, we go out. But I don't mind the replay. It just gives us a chance to give more minutes to Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones and more minutes to fringe players. Why is this a bad thing? And yet Klopp's taking this fairly extreme position.
Yeah, when I heard it, thinking about a replay, I thought to myself, there's no way he's going to play a load of senior players, but I did expect a similar team in the sense of a couple of senior players here and there, but mainly youngsters, get some time, minutes under your belt, progress through, and maybe, doing Everton again in the sense of, you've won a massive game, now can you go and win another one back to back? And I think for this competition, if you were to ask me at the beginning, would I be bothered if we went out, if it meant winning the league or anything like that? I would have said no, I'd have took that. But at the same time, every competition you're in, you want to win. I want to win this competition. I want to win any competition we're in. And at this moment, I don't see it that big of a deal on the league. So I don't think that when he's thought about this, he's thought that this could have any contribution to maybe not winning the league in May. I actually think it's just because he's had enough of people telling him what games he should play and when. And then also the fact that he puts out this team in the FA Cup, Carabao Cups like that, and then you get told you're disrespecting the league because of the teams you are putting out. But then you're facing opposition who are most likely not in your league, who are below you, and then these competitions are chances to give the young uns some time to grow and to show the world what they've got, and then to get injury players back. So I do think, even though it was already planned, I do think halfway through that game when he saw us, put our foot off the gas, them come back into it was a bit like he was saying, fuck this, can't be arsed. And to be fair, I don't blame him with how many fixtures the Premier League especially play. But at the same time, it's a bit like when Pep Guardiola said we should get rid of this cup. But what about the lower teams who this is everything for? It may not mean a lot to Premier League teams who earn quite a bit of money, but Shrewsbury coming to us, they could earn like $1 million, and that is a lot to them. This means a lot more to those teams, and if you scrap this competition altogether, just for games purposes, that's affecting lower league teams as well.
Well, I mean, Pep's, he may say get rid of the League Cup, Kev, but he's also quite happy when people talk about him winning the domestic treble and being the first to do so. So you can't have it both ways. I feel it would be nice if the fans could quietly, without it being any insurrection of any sort, let Klopp know that we quite like to win this cup. No, I don't think we should go risk the Champions League or the league points, but to virtually concede the competition. But if we're going to put out the under-23s, even at home to Shrewsbury, we run the risk of going out, and it also means whoever we draw in the next round, we're prepared to go out to. Liverpool are withdrawing from the FA Cup here, aren't they? All but.
The FA, listen, if we got to Wembley, I'd have a lovely time down there, and everyone else would, and that sounds. But the FA Cup's been dead since Man United didn't play in it when he went to the World Club Championship, and it's gone downhill since then.
It's better than nothing.
But it is better than nothing. But the thing is, in 5 years' time, if we've had our peak and we're on our trough, sound, let's go all out for the FA Cup. As it is now, I just don't care. I'm genuine. I know the other thing I like about it. It feels very Alex Ferguson what Klopp's doing here. Saying, listen, you think you're the bosses, but watch what I do now. Yeah. So he's now taking something. Listen, I understand the reaction from Liverpool fans has been pretty much universally what you're saying. Yeah. But I see it from the other way, where he's making himself the Ferguson-like figure, where he just says, well, fuck you. As you said before, work to rule. Okay, we'll play in the FA Cup, but we'll do this because here's what we want. And as you say, if we don't change anything, Neil, nothing's going to change. If we just go and play that game, nothing changes. And the 2-week break then becomes basically a 10-day break. And they might move the game forward to the Friday or whatever, blah, 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 when we come back. The FA Cup, it used to be sound, and I've had some of my best days following Liverpool with the FA Cup. But by the same token, nowadays, it just doesn't mean as much as it used to. And I know it still means a lot to a lot of people, and I'm not discounting that. But on a grander scale of things, people like Jürgen Klopp, Mo Salah, Sadio Mane, finely tuned athletes who haven't had a summer break for 3 and 4 years now, some of them between them. I'm not going to look back on a career and look at a couple of FA Cups. The type of players who do that are the top of the type of players who Liverpool used to have, who were the ones just below the top level. We've now got the top level players and we're going for the top level prizes. And I think the FA Cup's just unfortunately going to be a casualty.
He's spot on, isn't he? But at the same time, it just shows, doesn't it, that Liverpool don't play the same sport as these clubs. Yeah. They're not it's not the same sport. You can call it football, and it looks like football, and it sounds like football, but it's not, because how can you say, well, Liverpool don't care about the FA Cup, which I don't think they do. You've seen Klopp's team selections since he's been at Liverpool. Yeah. Remember the Exeter game where I think Benteke was captain in the first game, and then Jose Enrique was captain in the replay. Yeah. Players played in that game that don't even play league football anymore, who've dropped out of the game entirely.
Conor Randall.
Yeah, Joe Maguire, I think, came on in that game. Thiago Ilori played minutes in that game. Wow. But you look at that and you say, well, so is the answer for Liverpool to just say, well, we don't take part in the FA Cup anymore. Manchester United, Manchester City, we don't take part in the FA Cup. It's not just Liverpool. Watford. Did you see Watford's team at Tranmere on Thursday night? They had Andre Gray and Cabaselli, and I think other than that, it was players you'd never heard of. The bench was 7.
West Brom leave out more players than West Ham.
Players. Exactly. Manchester City made 9 or 10, I think. Yeah. I know, right? It still looks like a decent side, but he still made 9 or 10 changes. Yeah. But you look at it and you say, well, okay, what's the impact of Liverpool pulling out of it? Shrewsbury have made 250,000 nearly from this cup run, and that's not including the TV revenue from yesterday. The chances are that the replay will be on TV, whether Liverpool play me and you or whether they play Salah and Mane. Yeah. So that's more money for them. That's been taken away from these clubs. Lincoln got to the quarterfinals as a non-league club and built a training ground entirely on the money that they got from the FA Cup. That's keeping that club moving forward. If you take that away, then what you're essentially saying is, that's okay. Your sport can go and look after itself, and you do what you need to do, while the Premier League is a completely closed shop. And where do you close it from? Do you close it from the Championship, because there's small clubs in the Championship, Millwall, who can't compete with that? Do you close it to League One and say, listen, you can't play with us And I think it's getting closer and closer where something's going to have to change. And I think the idea of scrapping replays, I know exactly why top clubs want to do it, but I think if you do that, you're taking the first step towards basically saying, cutting adrift the Premier League and the rest, and then that way, you know where that leads. It leads towards the Premier League looking at the other half of the Premier League and saying, well, hang on.
Like Scotland, where we cut the league in half and play each other.
What are you doing playing against us, Norwich? Now you're going to have to go as well, and then we know where that leads. It leads to the Super League of the world, doesn't it? Which I think a lot of people are expecting.
Yeah, I mean, there's a finite. I mean, Klopp's banged this drum since he's been at Liverpool. There are a finite amount of games. The problem football's got, and this is a show in itself, and we have sort of done this on other shows, is you need to trim 2 off the international calendar. You maybe need to take a round out of the League Cup.
You definitely need to take away the 2-legged semi-final of the League Cup.
Yeah.
That's an
no-brainer.
easy strike.
It's a no-brainer. Yeah. You probably do need to take away replays from the FA Cup to let the FA Cup survive, and maybe even the Premier League needs to be trimmed by a couple of teams in the wider scheme of things. But unfortunately, the pressure's the other way about World Club Cup and about an expanded Champions League. So God knows what this all looks like in about 10 years' time. In fact, there's not a question, Chloe, that was just me pontificating.
AFCON in January as well.
Sorry?
African Nations Cup in January again now, so you're going to have it even worse next year. You're going to have a mid-season World Cup in Qatar.
Well, the only way it's going is that you have to, and have seen signs of this, I think, is you have the bigger clubs have to have 2 squads to try and deal with this. But Klopp's sort of going further now, going, I don't want to have 2 squads really. He's going, I want to have 1 squad and you can all fuck off, which is an argument. Do you think, Chloe, despite the fact he's made his headlines now, Jürgen, he's played his cards, he goes, I am Neil Critchley. Saying Neil Critchley is going to manage that team is actually the biggest statement, I think, that he himself will not deign to do it, and I'm going to play younger players, he said. Do you think he will actually go as far as to pick a team similar to the one he picked against Villa, or do you think it might be a little bit more mix and match, like, I don't know. The odd first teamer might. Adrian, for example, does he put Kelly and Adrian? Will it be that weak a team?
See, the thing with that is Aston Villa, a lot of the younger players like Curtis Jones, who would have played in that, was actually in Qatar.
Exactly.
So it wasn't like a question of can we leave him behind, because he needed this experience. He deserved that experience based on what he'd done under Jürgen in the games that he had played. So I can expect a similar team in the sense of, I do reckon some of the unknown players who you've never probably heard of will end up on the bench or maybe on the first team squad, the first team list. But I think you will see a lot more of the likes of Curtis Jones and that in the first 11 instead, because they've played in the first round. Well, you've conceded a 2-0 lead, yeah. If you're not going to play them in the second, they could lose confidence. Harvey Elliott was poor compared to what he usually looks like. Every time he usually gets on the ball, you usually think there's a chance here, something's going to happen, where that didn't really work out for him, and you could see how angry he was with himself and disappointed.
Yeah.
I think you need to start him in this game. To say,
I don't think there's any doubt in that, is there? Curtis
exactly.
and him is fine, yeah.
But I think you need to start these players and say, make up for what you have done. Show them that team that beat Everton and had the resilience and was this outstanding team. Show them that you can do that again. And even against a hard-gritted team who are more physical and offer something different, show you can do it again. And because dropping people from a 2-0 lead against Shrewsbury, what will that do for the confidence then? Where in the future are you going to see them play another game if we get knocked out the FA Cup? It's these kinds of things, the knock-on effect of not playing them in this game. So I think you will see more of a diverse team in the sense of you will get some players who did play against Aston Villa, but I think you'll definitely see the higher end of that list
more
being on the first
juniors.
11. Yeah, yes, exactly.
Fair comment. Okay, let's move on to West Ham. Kev, let's talk about them first before we talk about us and what we'll do. They're not in form. Moisey's come in. What have you made of them in the new Moisey era?
The new Moisey era, it's very stale, isn't it? It's the Moisey era has been the same as it ever was at every club he's ever been on. Even the Everton Moisey era wasn't as great as it was ever made out to be. West Ham are a mad one. I looked at them at the start of the season and thought they've got half a chance here. They put Allen up front. I thought he might have a go. They've got players like what's the
Anderson.
Felipe Anderson.
He wouldn't know how to place in our squad, him. They've got some cracking players there. But then, like, even Fabianski had a great start to the season, didn't he? So, it's something, they're like, a bit like Man United, where it's something from the top of the club down. It's like, they're racked with doubt about themselves. West Ham, for me, they're moving to that new ground. It's just going to be a millstone around their neck forever, because the atmosphere there is absolutely terrible. The fans ain't going there. And they go out and get a manager like Pellegrini, and obviously he's already won a Premier League. He's been given money to spend, and it hasn't quite worked out. And instead of gambling again, I know it's easy for me to say gamble because if they go down, it's an absolute nightmare for them. But instead of gambling again on a decent manager with a little bit of class and a little bit of worldly wisdom, they've just gone to what is effectively going to be the new Sam Allardyce. So for the next 10 to 15 years, every time a club's in trouble, it'll be get Moisey in for 12, 18 months. You know what I mean? It'll just be like that, and you never build nothing with him, are you?
No, I mean, do you know what? This is probably how his career goes now, because they're just about good enough to stay up because there's shite below them. Yeah. So Moisey goes, look, I've got another team out of trouble, and then Bournemouth go for him next season.
Exactly, yeah. So he's just like this generation's Alan Pardew, Sam Allardyce, and Harry Redknapp when he was at it. It's just a load of shit, isn't it, for West Ham fans? And West Ham fans deserve more for me. I like them as a club. I always remember coming out the FA Cup final 2006 and them clapping as we were coming out, and I thought, what a nice touch, because if it had been the other way around, I'd have been in tears myself. I suppose that's when I cared about the FA Cup, like, but they do deserve more, but their ownership is, they're cowboys, aren't they? And obviously they've got what's the name, Karen Brady is it, fucking running the business side of the show. It all feels a little bit more, it's like some sort of celebrity fucking real life Channel 5 documentary, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Rather than a football clip.
United,
yeah, they are proper.
It's interesting. Joe Cole was quite interesting, I thought, at the weekend, and I know that's not going to be a great start to a sentence, but Joe Cole was interesting when he said West Ham traditionally players go there for a bit of a holiday. He said they go to West Ham and they're living in London, they've got a nice life, they're not under great pressure to win anything. The sort of, there's this like sort of weird myth that you've got to play a certain way to play for West Ham, and so it's like, well, if we have a good go against United when they come here, that's all right, you know. But never mind, forget when we go to Bournemouth, we can get beat 3-0 down there because no one expects us to do anything. And you look at the players they buy, they always do seem to go that way, don't they? They buy players who you go, hey, he's a good player, isn't he? And then you see after 6 months, you go, what's happened to him? Haller was banging him in the Bundesliga, and you go, can't buy a goal at the moment. You look at, Fornals, who was one of the stars last year of the under-21s Euros. They signed him, and I thought, oh God, they've picked a good one up there. And look at Jack Wilshere, they signed him, on a big contract, Zabaleta, and you think, these are names.
Andy Carroll once.
Andy Carroll, was in that certainly in that bracket, yeah.
It's not a triumph for scouting though, is it?
No, but what it fits a club that changes its mind like the weather. So the club will go, right, now we want stability, we want David Moyes is going to keep us up, and we're just going to get hard seasoned pros in, and we're going to work hard, and we're going to give these East London guys what they want with the grit and the spirit. But then they stay up and they go, right, we're going to go up to the next level, we're going to buy Champions League aspirational players, we're going to get a proven manager in, and it doesn't work. So they go back to another Moyes or an Allardyce or whoever, and then the cycle restarts, and what you end up with is a squad like they've got now, where you couldn't pick the first 11 if you tried. You've got Mark Noble and Declan Rice, and that's about it. Yeah. And what you can fit the other 9 around that, and that's I agree with Kev. I do feel I feel very sorry for West Ham fans actually, because put it this way, if Liverpool were going to Upton Park on Wednesday, you'd be going, tough one. As it happens, you go in there and you're thinking, if they draw this game, I'll be shocked, and that sums up the state that they're in.
Do you think anything's vehicle? Have you seen anything? Have you watched them at all lately or tracked them?
Yeah, I think their first game was it against Sheffield United? Have I just made that up? Where they get a last minute winner and it gets cancelled out?
Yeah, equaliser.
Equaliser. Sorry, yeah. I think from when you employ a new manager in a team, it's always that bounce back. It's that next game, and you think to yourself, there's going to be a reaction here because it's a new boss. These players have then got to impress him, get into the team, and not just that, but you can get boring with the same old stuff. Players, they can then stop believing in philosophies and the way managers decide to the tactics and what games they do, and they can become bored. So when that first game happens, you could sort of expect a peak game. And to be fair, against Sheffield, they didn't play great, but they were in the game at all times, and they end up getting an equaliser, which I think should have stood.
Yeah,
but that's a different.
Declan Rice.
This is the I'm against that view, but that's another story. I argued drunkenly on Twitter about this,
but either way, it's that thing when you get a new manager and you expect to bounce back, and then if you do get a win, maybe you can string a couple of wins together. I think if they could have got that last minute equaliser, then they could have probably progressed and got a few more draws here and there, and maybe even a couple more wins. But as it goes at the moment, they just look lacklustre all over the pitch. Felipe Anderson can't even get a goal. It's 50-50 whether he actually starts, and actually, he's their best player technically for me. Haller, he just looks isolated up top. There's no link play between the midfield and the attack, and defensively, it just looks a bit of a shambles at times, where you thought they brought in Ogbonna a couple of seasons ago, and I thought he's actually a decent player, and for a team like West Ham, that's a decent buy, and he's probably scored more own goals than Scale at this moment in time, and that is quite something to do. So with West Ham, you go there, and for me, if we don't win, I'll be annoyed because of the way in which their league form right now for West Ham, and the fact that they don't get a crowd in really, and it's very dead atmosphere. But at the same time, you go in a game at a time. David Moyes' tactics against us just likes to sit back, and each game's different. Sheffield United play brilliantly against City, but don't play brilliantly against us. Can't lay a glove on us. It's you can predict a game, but you can never know the outcome of it, because you might have an off day. Where Liverpool had an off day against Shrewsbury, they weren't brilliant in the second half against Wolves. We've had plenty of games this season that we've looked a bit not at our best, which is unbelievable for what we're doing.
They had one down there last year, didn't they? On the Monday night.
Liverpool.
At West Ham, they were terrible, went in.
1-1, wasn't it?
2 points dropped.
I honestly can't come on to this, actually. I'll get to you on this one, Kev. It's a good time to be playing West Ham because they're a bit crap. But is it also equally, if there can be a good time to play the champions elected 122 out of 23, is this about? Are Liverpool slightly off their peak at the moment? In as much as I don't think we looked fantastic, we didn't look great at Wolves. You may draw some continuity to Shrewsbury. I don't know whether you could draw a line to the second half at Man U or what have you. Are there? I suppose I'm playing devil's advocate. Are there signs that Liverpool could return to their norm of February form, even though we may still get results? Are we not on fire?
We're not on fire, no. But by the same token, as Chloe mentioned there, we're winning games by not necessarily being on fire. And I've said on a couple of shows that Liverpool's style of play isn't the Man City go out and blow teams away 5-0. It's beat what's in front of you with a level that you have to play at to that. And I think that is what is going to prevent us having that February fall-off, which we've had in the past. So we go out and do the business, and we don't necessarily have to be at 100% to win, which is the sign of a great team. So City have to be at 100% or they don't win. So they're showing it this season. They've lost 5 games, they've drawn a couple as well. Whereas Liverpool just go out and do what we need to do. So listen, if I was West Ham, I could probably talk myself into thinking this is a boss time to play and just to do with Shrewsbury. But in reality, I'd be thinking, fucking hell, we're in trouble here.
Neil, what do you think?
Well, just look at the last few games. Tottenham away, no matter what you think of Mourinho and that Tottenham team, it's a tough game.
Of course it is, yeah.
Manchester United at home is a tough game because of everything that goes on around it. Wolves is as tough a game as you can probably get away from home at the moment, other than City or Liverpool. West Ham isn't the same category as that, and they're not in the same calibre of team or players as those three sides. So it should in theory be easy. They've had a little, they've had virtually a week's rest, most of the first team. I don't imagine, other than the three subs who came on yesterday, I don't think any of them are going to play on Wednesday night. I think the only issue I would say is how big does Mane's absence? I think he is going to miss the game. Pretty sure he is. How big does that affect Liverpool, because they haven't really had to deal without him
at all.
At all. Yeah. If anything, when they rotate the front three, it tends to be the other two that drop out, doesn't it? And he plays. So I think that did affect them at Wolves, because they just lost that direct threat, and Minamino's more of a connect sort of drop off and knit the play together rather than running behind player. So just see how big that affects it. But I mean, listen, we're talking about Liverpool not being on fire, but they win there and they win on Saturday. They're 22 points clear by the time City kick off on the weekend, which I think we can probably say it's done when that happens.
How many times can you say it's done? Let's try and look at the selection poses for the manager, Chloe. Would you agree that the 9 of the positions are nailed on? There's 2 up for grabs, I'd argue. One in midfield because we don't know if Fabinho slots straight back in or not, and it has been one up for grabs in midfield for a while. But because of the Mane void, and what would you do? What do you think will happen?
For me, I'd put Origi in on the wing just because that's usually what we've been going to in the sense of the last couple of seasons. He's up to speed. I don't know whether you could start Minamino in a game at the Premier League right now because even after 45 minutes of the game at Wolves he was like, nah, I can't do this, like my legs, he was getting massaged and he came out and said I'm disappointed with how I've performed in my first game, and you don't want that. You're playing in the Premier League, the best and most demanding league, and you've played in the Champions League and you've played well against us, but this is a whole different kettle of fish. This is the best league and you're not going to be on form straight away. You're not going to have the fitness levels that you need in this league. And for me, I think if you start Minamino, even though I think he's a brilliant player, I don't think he can offer you as much as Origi does.
Origi wasn't good at the weekend though.
Well, to be fair, the last couple of games he's been on. Like it's mad, innit? Because we've all said, him coming off the bench is absolutely class. But the last couple of games I've seen him come off the bench, he hasn't even won a header from a goal kick. Like, he marks the man, doesn't he? And you're a bit like, look at the ball, you're aiming for the ball. He's just pushing people out the way and just the ball goes out and like, sound. But I think Origi, but then saying that, we played Newcastle, he came on and he changed the game dramatically. So I think you've got to start him for me because I also think if you're sat there and you're Divock Origi, you've been here for how many years, and then Minamino's starting ahead of you and he's only just came in, you're going to be a bit like what's going on here? Like, he's only just came in. You're starting him now in the Premier League. He came on at Wolves instead of Divock Origi. You thought might come on.
I think that might be the thing that gets Origi the start because that was the wrong sub at Wolves. We should have put Origi on because we'd have stretched the game and had a bit more of a directness about him. Minamino, as you said before, he'll play sort of more between the lines.
Firmino, isn't he?
Yeah, he's more of a Firmino type player, exactly, yeah. So to put him on there, and as you said, Chloe, looked knackered, didn't he? Like a bit of a culture shock. And we just criticised West Ham, but it's probably going to be a little bit similar. Origi, though, when he starts, 9 times out of 10 is absolutely shite. Honestly, I know.
So we're all starting him, yeah?
I know he's not.
Do you think he could play Oxlade-Chamberlain and then play Keita in midfield, couldn't he? Or Fabinho in midfield, and he could play Oxlade-Chamberlain off the left. He could play 2 up front in Salah and Firmino and sort of play a...
Put Minamino behind them too, couldn't you?
Yeah.
4-3-1-2.
I wouldn't be surprised if Oxlade-Chamberlain play. I think he'd play somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised. The fact that he didn't bring Keita on Sunday, I think might suggest that he might think, give him an hour at West Ham and on a big pitch. And he started that game last year and he wasn't. He mixed.
He had a bad first half.
Yeah, and then he was better in the second half. So I wonder whether he might just rejig the midfield and put Ox into the front three. I
thought it was interesting that he finishes with Ox, Firmino and Salah on the pitch yesterday. Yeah. I'd put money on Oxlade-Chamberlain. But what would you do in midfield, Kev? I mean, the choices are really Fabinho, Chamberlain or Keita. I'd like it to be Keita, but I thought he would have given him minutes as a warm-up.
My initial reaction would be go with a solid midfield three and just control the game because Declan Rice is obviously the supposed star man. I don't particularly rate him as highly as other people. He is just okay. I think he's been built up because he's English, which often happens. But I'd go Fabinho, Henderson, Wijnaldum, just give you the base because if we are going to put Oxlade-Chamberlain in the front three, that doesn't often work either. So I'd be more worried about giving them a strong base to work from than I would be maybe trying to fit another creative player in there, maybe a Keita or someone like that, because if Keita has a bit of a dodgy game, which he can sometimes do, and Oxlade-Chamberlain is having a bit of a mare on the left wing, which he has had in the past, you sort of look and think, now we've gone from being the strongest team in the world here to we've got 9 men on the pitch effectively.
And it also changes your subs, doesn't it, if it's 0-0 and you've got them 2 starting, and then you're looking at your bench going, we've got Fabinho to come on, or I've got Lallana to come on, or you're depriving yourself of an attacking option on the bench as well by playing both of those two. But
if you go for the midfield three like
you can play okay to wide left even. He has played there, you know.
In the front three, yeah.
Yeah, he's played just as a ball carrying player. You know, he isn't Mane in terms of his style, but he's capable of dribbling with the ball and getting into attacking positions and goal scoring. So there's an option there. But I agree. Origi did himself no favours on Sunday. No. I thought just not just in terms of his, you know, what came off for him, but I just thought his mentality wasn't particularly good. He looked like someone who didn't want to be there, and that's not a great look to be in this Liverpool team.
No, I think Klopp will need to put 4 attackers on the pitch, because I think Moisey will play like the away team. I think they'll park the bus.
There's no evidence to suggest he'll ever do that.
None whatsoever. So I think we'll be, however you riddle, it'll be some sort of 4-2-3-1-ish formation, some sort of 4 attackers. And Minamino may come into the mix.
Curtis
again.
Jones.
Curtis Jones. It could be actually, that's a really good shout. And then you could have Minamino and Origi off the bench or something like that. Okay, I think we're going to wrap this up. But before we go, there's something I have to announce, and I want to announce. Lizzie looking at me. As you'll have probably seen by now, the Anfield Wrap have been doing alternative commentary for a couple of the away games, which you can sync with your telly. We'll be back on the mics Wednesday night for West Ham, so download the Hot Mic app from the website, hotmic.io, and enter the invite code Anfield Wrap, all uppercase. All one word, and have a go and see what you think. That's been the Anfield Wrap in association with The Athletic. Go and check them out if you haven't already. www.theathletic.co.uk/The Anfield Wrap to sign up for all their content. Thanks to Neil, thanks to Chloe, thanks to Kev. Up the Reds.